What's up, family? Deacon Matt here along with Pastor Ryan, and wanted to just give you a brief update for our weekly. And I want to first start by saying thank you. Thank you so much for the numerous phone calls and emails we've received from you guys. So many of y'all just letting us know that you've been praying for us. So thank you for that. The second thank you would be thank you for your generosity. You have continued to give generously to Grace Church in order for us to love and care for one another, as well as care for our community. So those two thank yous. And then the third thing I just want to praise the Lord is in this time we've been able to start 3 new community groups. And so I'm just, God's faithfulness to us in this season has been awesome. We've been able to connect folks. And just want to praise the Lord for that.
Yeah. Well, we are so ready to be back together with you. So that means I think we all have the question of timeline. When are we going to be back together? What will this look like? Now, I want to answer first, when will it feel like normal? And I don't think it will feel like normal, like real normal, like it was in January until September. And that might be a hard pill to swallow because that's a far ways away. But just thinking about schools and universities and how they've been talking, that's when it'll probably feel like normal. And so we have to think about what does it look like for us to slowly reopen over time and kind of take a month at a time. Now, that means also that when we first get together, it won't feel like a grand reopening. And I want to tell you that, and maybe set your expectations, because I think most of us have this vision of when we get back together, it's going to be a big party. We all see one another, we're all hugging, and we all get to dance together. And that's what it's going to be. And it won't look like that. Unfortunately, it won't look like that. And so think about timeline. I showed you that bell curve last week where 20% of you are probably ready to gather tomorrow. 20% of you are probably thinking about maybe in the next month, 2 or 3, and then the other 60% of you are probably somewhere in the middle. Now that's fine. There's space for us to disagree and have different opinions and perspectives on what this might look like. But what we're going to do is be gracious with one another. Where we're going to be kind and gracious, respectful of one another, disagree with charity, where we don't demonize and look down on the person that's more confident than us, or demonize and look down on the people that are more cautious than us. But we're going to care for one another and consider one another and love one another and be mindful of those that are vulnerable, the most vulnerable in our midst. And so as we think about timeline, we've been praying and talking a lot, but what we want from you is to hear from you. We want to hear from you, that you would give us some information, some of your perspective. And so in this weekly update, this week you'll have a survey, because we want to hear, and we ask some specific questions, around 6 that won't take too long, just to hear from you, so that will help guide us as we think about this and think about you and think about leading and loving you and shepherding you in this moment. So please fill out that survey as soon as you can, so that we can begin to think and pray and make a decision, and then lay that out before you. So with that said, kind of on timeline with Sunday gatherings, what we are moving towards is community groups. So Matt.
Yes. So what does that look like? What's our first step as we begin to kind of phase in the month of May? And so what we have prayed through, we want to invite face-to-face gatherings beginning next week, so Sunday, May 10th and on, but gender specific. And so kind of just what that might look like is men would meet one night beginning next week, and then another night the group would decide on when the women would gather. And that would, still being mindful and respectful of spacing, that would probably take place outside on the front porch, the back porch, in the garage. But yeah, we want to invite that back, ask our groups to begin meeting next week, face-to-face, gender-specific. And then still striving for our 4 wins, not missing out on what groups gathered look like for us. And of course, the first being a gospel-centered discipleship, that we would live out the one another's and love and serve and care for one another in that context. And the second being still having a culture of grace. still working and learning to apply the gospel to ourselves, but also to one another. And then the third one will be a beautiful thing, is still practice family worship. So men, I'd love to just gather with our group and hear us sing a hymn together, and the same thing with our ladies. So still practicing family worship. And then the fourth is where it gets a little fun, is a compelling community. Be creative with this within your groups. What that might look like is men, when you gather, is taking a prayer walk throughout your neighborhood and specifically praying for homes, and as other neighbors are out, asking if they have any prayer needs, and then vice versa for our gals, our ladies, being able to do the same thing. Grill in the front yard, on the driveway, invite a neighbor or two over, and so that's what that looks like. So this would begin next week after our Sunday gathering. Next Sunday, May 10th, we will begin phasing back in within community groups, gender specific. So we look forward to that in this first step of phasing back in, of being together.
We love you guys.